Yo, what's up? I'm Hunter, and welcome to TrashBox. Recently, I have been super into fighting games. If you've never played a fighting game before, it may come as a shock to you, but yes, these games do have stories. I love these games as much as the next guy, but I'm not gonna sit here and lie to y'all. A lot of these games have story modes that are trash. What I'm talking about is how the storytelling of fighting games have been explored in the versus mode. The story of versus mode is broken into 3 sections: the arrival, clash, and the departure. So let's start with the arrival. In most movies, everything serves as the arrival for the final battle. This might work in movies and some games, but versus mode doesn't have the time for that. There's only a small amount of time before the fight to tell you the who, the what, the when, where, why, and make you care about this fight. That's not a lot of time to build anticipation. So fighting games have learned to use 2 ways to make the arrival as entertaining as possible. Starting off by telling you where the fight's gonna take place. Dating all the way back to King of Fighters 94, fighting games would slowly reveal the stage and set the scene. Through the years, these intros have evolved into full cutscenes that immerse you in the fight and place you in the world of the characters. Blending in right from the stage intro is the character intro. These intros show off the fighter you chose and a little bit about who they are and maybe where they're from. The best character intros are the ones where the characters have unique dialogue for certain stage or matchups. In Third Strike, for example, characters have special intros for their rivals, like this one of Hugo and Alex. Another kind of interaction is when characters from another franchise finally get a chance to talk with each other. In Capcom vs SNK 2, Sakura and Yuri introduce themselves to one another, and Ken throws Terry his hat before they throw down. Both have a sense of rivalry, not just between the fighters, but the franchises. Over time, fighting games have built off this and have made some of the coolest character intros of any game genre. Pull-up game is unrivaled. In a similar way to the stage intro, fighting games also use music to set the scene. In fighting games, you have 2 kinds of music during the fight: artificial music, music that's playing because you chose it to play, and diegetic music, music that's playing in the location of the fight. That's why most background tracks in fighting games are so associated with their stage counterparts. They both work together to set the mood for the fight, and what emotions the battle should be making each player feel. Some characters have unique songs that play when they perform certain moves. In Guilty Gear, Soul's Dragon Install, for example, just snatches the ox and throws on his own music. Some go a step further. Some characters have entire songs that are literally retellings of their stories and play as you fight for the very ideals you're hearing blasted into your ears. To learn more about how these songs tie into each character, I recommend Gecko Squirrel's video on this. Now, as I was saying, the stage intros, the character intros, and the music set up the arrival. We know the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. All we need is the how. How will these 2 characters squabble, and how can this section, the clash, be used in telling the story of versus mode? No matter how cool the stage might look, or how it sets the tone for the stakes of the battle, it's usually just there, and most people prefer it that way. Some people think stage hazards add a level of required spatial awareness and make for more interesting fights, and it can also add to the story of versus mode. 3D games and plat fighters do this pretty often, but they usually are removed for competitive play. Some 2D fighters, though, have tried to add similar stuff to their games and keep it competitive. One that uses stage as well is Guilty Gear Strive. The corner has always been the boundary of 2D fighting games, and has been used as a strategic barrier to push your opponent to where they can't run away. However, Guilty Gear has a mechanic where if you deal enough damage to the wall, the characters will go flying through it over the map and land at another location within the stage, resetting the neutral, but looking cool while doing it. Another Arc System game, Dragon Ball FighterZ, has a system where if you finish an enemy with a super, they'll go flying into the mountainside and the stage will change. The best stage change is when enough damage is dealt through supers, the stage itself will become a wasteland from the destruction you caused. In fighting games, the fighting part is the main show, and it uses a lot of this section to explore the fighters themselves. Based on their intros, you expect characters to have certain movesets or abilities, and these playstyles are called character archetypes. Some of the most common are the all-rounder, the rushdown, the zoner, and the grappler. Each of these archetypes have different goals and objectives during the fight. Some like getting in close, while some like to stay far away. And depending on how you like to play, usually is the deciding factor on which character you pick up. While some characters are fixed in one archetype, depending on how you use the characters, you can tell a different story. Someone might play Ken as a reckless, heavy-hitting fighter, which fits his character, but playing him more passively with better timed reads tells the story of a Ken who has become more refined as a fighter and master. The best character movesets are ones that allow the players to fully express their own unique take on the character, and it still fit within the story or narrative of that character. Some games even use unique camera angles and particle effects to further make the moment-to-moment gameplay feel cinematic. This is something pretty recent in fighting games, as it shows an advancement in technology. It allows this to no longer just be a representation of this, but these changes can allow gameplay to fully become absolute cinema.
I cannot lose. Not to anyone.
But there's one problem. As a rule, when the game is in the state of neutral, meaning no player has any advantage, the camera must reflect this by staying neutral. In favor of fairness, nothing can be obscured that could hide a move's telegraphing, unless intentionally made to do so. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Although you can't fairly mess around with neutral readability before a move is executed, you can at the moment it is executed, and at the moment it connects. In fighters, almost every auto combo, combo string, heavy attack, dragon rush, command grab, and command normals have some slight to massive shifts in camera, particle effects, and screen shake. Command grabs, heavy attacks, and dragon rush all at execution and contact shift the camera angle, movement speed, and in some cases play whole entire animations. But in between motion input and contact, the game reverts to a neutral camera angle so that you have time to fairly gauge the distance and react. The key is that in a very literal way, the competitive nature of the game comes right before the visual flares that make this feel like this. How do all of these effects help tell a story in versus mode? Well, they make a strategic and precise execution feel calculated and well-timed. They make a beatdown look even more like Nuclear Bomb versus Coughing Baby. And best of all, these elements make comebacks feel like how they should. Exhilarating. The highest high story moment of a fighting game match is the super attack. Most games, whether or not they have complex stage intros or character intros, always opt for the super to display the character's full power. The use of cinematic supers is a great way to have some storytelling in the fight. As ridiculous as these get, I love supers no matter the kind, and my favorite are the ones that have the supers themselves tell a unique story. Essentially, supers that feel like how supers are supposed to be. A character's last-ditch effort in overcoming their opponent and going all out with this one attack. Maybe a guest character is using the super, or maybe the character has a flashback and remembers what they're fighting for, or maybe the location is tied to the character's specific story or abilities. One example is that of Biken Super, where you legit get transported to her domain expansion and get Fruit Ninja'd in half. With unique camera angles, timing, and sound design, you really feel the amount of story packed within this character and this specific attack. The super attacks like these are some of the best in the genre, but would you believe me if I told you there's one level above this? Of course it'd be Dragon Ball FighterZ. This game has supers that legit take forever to end, but each one is so visually stunning and tells such an interesting story about the characters that they're worth sitting through. These supers feel like supers, and they perfectly capture the high highs of Dragon Ball Z. I could go on forever, but the highest level to this is the dramatic finisher, where a special super attack cutscene plays based on stage choice, team composition, and matchup. Most of the time, these are renditions of events within the Dragon Ball anime, but in some cases, what-if scenarios are explored and have become fan favorites within the community. What makes these so awesome is that they didn't have to be there, but the developers know that these two characters have a history together, and they wanted to show that. This mix of the story into the gameplay is probably the best to date, and I'd be hard-pressed to find a game above Dragon Ball FighterZ in terms of fully utilizing the versus mode to tell stories. With that, the clash is over, and there stands a victor. The final story beat of the duel, the departure. Another chance to show off each character's personality is the reaction to both a win or a loss. Whether they encourage their rivals or curse their enemies, each win or loss wraps up the story and sets the characters back on their journey. The departure can close this chapter of each character's story, and the best win or lose screens feel like an earned and satisfying ending to the fight. Every single one of these elements, the arrival, the clash, and the departure, act as vessels for the characters, stages, and background music to all contribute to telling the story of versus mode. It's just too bad that none of it actually matters to the story of the game itself. The hard truth is that as much potential exists in fighting game versus mode, it can never mean anything. The stories told within versus mode can never deviate from the source material and remain relevant. Even if certain character interactions have specially curated animations or voice lines, unique and new stories are nothing more than hype moments and aura that at the end of the day mean nothing for the characters themselves. If everything gets reset, then nothing matters. Except that's only half the story told. The world that feels the effects of what happens on this side of the screen exists beyond it. Without the player, nothing can happen within the game. And even if the characters remain unchanged, when you lose that match, or when you win the set, that's real. You learn how to play the character you pick, how they work, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and decide this is who I'll fight with. The moment you pick up the controller, you enter the narrative. The clashing of personalities, fighting styles, and even philosophies that are validated by the struggle to get onto the stage. And there, you play your heart out. Of course, winning feels great. And what would be EVO if there was no winner? But fighting games aren't about the results. It's about the fight to get there. As ironic as it is, I want to end this video by explaining what happens in the arcade mode of Street Fighter 2. At the end, Ryu defeats Sagat in the rematch, after which a ceremony is held for the winners. Bison takes third place, Sagat takes second, and Ryu, of course, takes first. But Ryu isn't there. Already seeking out the next challenge, the ceremony means nothing to him. The fight is everything. My goodness, that was a lot of yapping. I seriously doubt this video is going to blow up, so if you managed to sit all the way through this long as freak video, thank you. It means a lot that you'd stick around to hear me yap about stuff you probably don't care about, and I want you to know how much I appreciate it. Before I let you go, I want to say that I'm not going to be a one and done channel. I already got a couple scripts written up, so depending on how this video does, I'll try and get that one out sooner rather than later. Anyways, seriously, thanks for watching. I'm Hunter, this has been TrashBox, and until we meet again, stay gold.
They looking for the shooter! That was contested.